Gaikai, the cloud gaming startup Sony bought in 2008, while the gaming industry was still fixated on physical discs and downloadable content, a small startup called Gaikai emerged with a radical vision that seemed almost science-fictional. Founded by David Perry, a legendary game developer who had created iconic titles like Earthworm Jim, Gaikai proposed something that many considered impossible: streaming full-fledged video games directly through web browsers without any downloads, installations, or high-end hardware requirements. The name itself, derived from the Japanese word for open sea, reflected Perry's ambition to create an ocean of gaming content accessible to anyone with an internet connection. What started as an ambitious cloud gaming experiment would eventually become the foundation of Sony's PlayStation Now service, but not before experiencing a tumultuous journey that perfectly encapsulated both the promise and perils of being too far ahead of your time. David Perry wasn't just another tech entrepreneur with a gaming idea. He was an industry veteran who understood games from the ground up. Born in Northern Ireland, Perry had moved to the United States in the early 1990s and founded Shiny Entertainment, where he created beloved franchises like Earthworm Jim and worked on adaptations of The Matrix. By 2008, Perry had sold Shiny Entertainment and was looking for his next big challenge when he became fascinated by the potential of cloud computing. He recognized that the gaming industry was facing a fundamental problem. Games were becoming increasingly complex and expensive to develop, while the barriers to entry for players were getting higher with each console generation requiring hundreds of dollars in upfront investment. Perry's vision for Gaikai was to eliminate these barriers entirely by moving all the computational heavy lifting to remote servers and streaming the results to players' devices. The concept was elegantly simple in theory, but monumentally complex in execution, requiring innovations in video compression, network latency reduction, and server infrastructure that pushed the boundaries of what was technically possible at the time. Gaikai's technical approach was genuinely revolutionary for its era, utilizing custom-built server farms equipped with high-end graphics cards and processors that could render games in real time and compress the video output into streams that could be transmitted over standard internet connections. The company developed proprietary algorithms for predicting player inputs and pre-rendering likely scenarios to minimize the perception of lag, a critical factor that could make or break the gaming experience. Unlike traditional gaming where processing happens locally on the player's device, Gaikai's system meant that a player could theoretically run the latest AAA title on a basic laptop or even a smartphone, as long as they had sufficient bandwidth and low latency to the nearest server. The startup invested heavily in content delivery network technology, partnering with companies like Akamai to place servers as close as possible to end users, recognizing that every millisecond of delay could translate into frustrated players and negative reviews. Perry and his team also developed innovative business models around their technology, proposing everything from try-before-you-buy demos that could run instantly in web browsers to advertising-supported free gaming that could reach audiences previously excluded by the high cost of gaming hardware. The early demonstrations of Gaikai's technology generated significant excitement in the gaming industry, with media outlets and industry analysts praising the company's ambitious vision and technical achievements. At gaming conferences and trade shows, Gaikai consistently drew crowds of amazed onlookers who watched high-end games running smoothly in simple web browsers on basic hardware. The company successfully secured partnerships with major game publishers including EA, Ubisoft, and THQ, who were intrigued by the potential to reach new audiences and reduce piracy through cloud-based distribution. Gaikai raised over $36 million in venture capital funding from prominent investors including Intel Capital, Foundation Capital, and New Enterprise Associates, demonstrating significant confidence in the company's potential. The startup's business development efforts extended beyond traditional gaming, with experiments in advertising-supported gaming that could be embedded directly into websites and social media platforms. By 2010, Gaikai had launched a public beta service that allowed players to stream games through Facebook and various gaming websites, marking one of the first commercially viable implementations of cloud gaming technology. However, beneath the surface excitement and impressive demonstrations, Gaikai faced mounting technical and business challenges that highlighted the immense difficulty of scaling cloud gaming technology. The company's infrastructure costs were astronomical, with each server capable of supporting only a limited number of concurrent users, while consuming massive amounts of electricity and requiring constant cooling and maintenance. Internet infrastructure in many regions simply wasn't ready for the bandwidth and latency requirements that smooth cloud gaming demanded, leading to inconsistent user experiences that varied dramatically based on geographic location and internet service provider quality. The business model remained fundamentally challenging, as the cost of providing the service often exceeded what users were willing to pay, especially when they could purchase games outright for similar prices. Gaikai also discovered that different types of games had vastly different requirements for successful streaming, with fast-paced action games and fighting games proving particularly sensitive to even minimal latency issues. The company struggled with the chicken and egg problem of needing massive scale to make the economics work, while requiring significant upfront investment to achieve that scale, all while competing against established gaming platforms with decades of market presence and consumer loyalty. As Gaikai continued to develop its technology and seek sustainable business models, the company began exploring partnerships and acquisition opportunities that could provide the resources and infrastructure necessary for large-scale deployment. The startup's most significant breakthrough came through its relationship with Sony, which began as a technology licensing deal but quickly evolved into something much more substantial. Sony recognized that cloud gaming represented a potential paradigm shift that could threaten traditional console business models while simultaneously offering opportunities to reach new markets and extend the lifespan of gaming content. In July 2012, Sony announced its acquisition of Gaikai for approximately $380 million, a significant premium that reflected both the perceived value of the technology and the strategic importance Sony placed on cloud gaming capabilities. The acquisition was particularly notable because it occurred during a period when Sony was struggling financially and facing intense competition from Microsoft's Xbox platform and the emerging mobile gaming market dominated by Apple and Google. Under Sony's ownership, Gaikai's technology underwent significant evolution and integration into Sony's broader gaming ecosystem, though this transition proved far more complex and time-consuming than initially anticipated. Sony's engineers discovered that adapting Gaikai's technology to work with PlayStation games required extensive modifications to both the streaming infrastructure and the games themselves, as many titles had never been designed with cloud gaming latency and input prediction in mind. The company invested heavily in expanding server infrastructure and developing new compression algorithms specifically optimized for PlayStation content, while also working to integrate cloud gaming capabilities into the PlayStation 4 console and various Sony devices. In 2014, Sony launched PlayStation Now, a cloud gaming service built on Gaikai's technology foundation that initially offered streaming access to PlayStation 3 games on PlayStation 4 consoles and later expanded to include PC and other devices. The service represented one of the first major commercial implementations of cloud gaming by a console manufacturer, marking a significant milestone in the industry's evolution towards streaming-based gaming models. PlayStation Now's launch revealed both the potential and the ongoing limitations of cloud gaming technology, even after years of development and substantial investment by Sony. While the service successfully demonstrated that streaming console-quality games was technically feasible, user reception was mixed due to persistent issues with latency, image quality, and the limited selection of available titles. The subscription pricing model, which started at nearly $20 per month, drew criticism from consumers who felt it was expensive compared to traditional game ownership models, especially given the service's limitations and restrictions. Sony faced ongoing challenges with internet service providers and regional infrastructure variations that created inconsistent user experiences, with some players enjoying smooth gameplay while others experienced significant lag and connection issues. The company also discovered that consumer behavior and expectations around gaming ownership were deeply ingrained, with many players preferring to own games permanently rather than access them through subscription services, even when the streaming option offered convenience and lower upfront costs. Despite these challenges, PlayStation Now gradually expanded its library and improved its technical performance, eventually incorporating downloadable options alongside streaming and becoming a more integrated part of Sony's gaming ecosystem. The story of Gaikai illustrates the complex dynamics of technological innovation in the gaming industry, where breakthrough concepts often require years or even decades to achieve widespread adoption due to infrastructure limitations, consumer behavior patterns, and economic realities. While Gaikai's original vision of universal cloud gaming accessibility hasn't been fully realized, The company's technological foundations have enabled significant advances in gaming accessibility and distribution that continue to evolve today. Sony's investment in Gaikai technology has paid dividends beyond PlayStation Now, influencing the company's approach to game streaming across multiple devices and contributing to broader industry trends toward cloud-based gaming services. The competitive landscape that Gaikai helped create has pushed other major technology companies, including Microsoft, Google, and Amazon, to develop their own cloud gaming platforms, validating the original vision while demonstrating the ongoing challenges of execution. Modern cloud gaming services continue to grapple with many of the same technical and business model challenges that Gaikai faced, though improvements in internet infrastructure, compression technology, and consumer acceptance of streaming media have made cloud gaming more viable than ever before. Today, as the gaming industry continues to evolve toward streaming and subscription-based models, Gaikai's legacy serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale about the realities of pioneering transformative technologies. The company's technical innovations in video compression, latency reduction, and cloud infrastructure have become foundational elements of modern cloud gaming services, while its business model experiments have informed current approaches to gaming subscriptions and streaming services. David Perry's vision of making high-quality gaming universally accessible continues to drive industry innovation, even as the practical implementation of that vision remains an ongoing challenge requiring continuous technological advancement and significant infrastructure investment. The acquisition by Sony ultimately provided Gaikai's technology with the resources and platform necessary for large-scale implementation, though the timeline and complexity of that implementation exceeded most initial projections. As internet infrastructure continues to improve globally and new technologies like 5G networks promise to reduce latency and increase bandwidth, the fundamental concepts that Gaikai pioneered are becoming increasingly relevant to the future of gaming, suggesting that while the company itself may have been ahead of its time, its vision may finally be approaching the moment when technology, infrastructure, and market conditions align to make truly universal cloud gaming a reality.